Good afternoon, viewers. You're welcome to the POLITY here on Kaftan TV. My name is OSARETIN Osadebamwen, and today we shall be looking at a very interesting issue which broke out at the weekend. An interview with the African richest man and the man with the largest refinery on the continent of Africa, Aliko Dangote. What is the issue? Luxury or legacy? He is challenging the wealthy men of Nigeria to look at investment as the best option that they will leave a legacy than riding on luxury. And so in his interview, which was widely used by several papers online and offline, he said that investment should be on industries rather than having this investment on luxury items like cars and beautiful furnitures. He complained actually that each time he moves around the airport, he sees a lot of private aircraft, private jets owned by very rich Nigerians. And so he said, of course, at this level of wealth, he sees everybody as being like him, and he says everybody has a private jet. And for him, each of these private jets, the money spent on them, and even for having them kept on the hangar, is sufficient to run an industry which will have more persons employed, which will have more jobs created, which will of course have a spiral effect on the economy and by extension reduce the social tension that Nigeria encounters. And so first today. So today we'll be looking at a topic: legacy. Luxury or legacy. These are something we are going to be looking at. And then should the Nigerian wealthy men be compelled in any way by anyone to invest in industries? Do they need such kind of comment? And of course, this is a very strong comment, and it's considered so because it is coming from a very wealthy man himself, who has had reason to visit several of his colleagues. Many of him, he knows what they are worth and how much they can impact on the local economy. One of the interesting things he said is that Nigerians should not, the federal government should pay less attention in inviting foreign investors, because there are quite a number of wealthy Nigerians who can sufficiently fund various aspects of the economy than seeking for foreign investors. As far as it's concerned, the federal government should pay attention to providing an enabling environment. And when it does so, when it does ensure enabling environment, certainly, what will follow is that investors will be running into that enabled environment where their businesses can succeed. And that, of course, will be the magnet to bring in more investors into the country. Later to join me on Zoom in this conversation on luxury or legacy is High Chief Peter Ameh, the CUPP National Secretary and former, former chairman of IPAC. So we shall be going on a break now. And after that, we shall return and then we'll come on the conversation. Luxury or legacy? Should Nigerian wealthy be impressed upon to do what they should do? Or should they take it as a social responsibility or part of their civic duties to be able to run this? When they run these businesses, of course, government which is looking for money can make money, a lot of money from taxes. When these taxes are paid, our hospitals will have more money to function. Government will have more money to fund our hospitals. They will have more money to fund our educational system, and even some of the transportation system, which is intended to actually assuage the transport difficulty being faced by Nigerians, will of course have an investment in this area. Water, health, education, transportation, this key aspect of society development will of course be useful. So let's go on the break, and when we return, we shall have more conversation around this. Welcome back to the POLITY on Kaftan Television. We're reaching you for the Federal Capital Territory here in Abuja. Once again, my name is OSARETIN Osadebamwen, and joining me via the Zoom link is High Chief Peter Ameh, the National Secretary of the Coalition of Progressive Party. So let us have him join us as we look at the topic luxury or legacy. You're welcome, sir. Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. At the weekend, the richest man in Africa, Aliko Dangote, made a comment that was like a buzz across the media. And then he was challenging the wealthy Nigerians to pay tax. In encouraging them to pay tax, he did challenge them. Instead of investing in luxury items like private jets, like what do you call it, other luxury things like Rolls Royce, they should think of investing this money in an industry, in a firm, so they could have an industry. What do you make of this kind of comment coming from a very, very wealthy man himself? Of course, he has set an example in the country with the Dangote refinery.
For me, this is a call to action, and this call goes beyond rhetoric. It should go beyond rhetoric. This is it's more than a moral call, moral appeal call for people to invest in Nigeria. It is one of the most important political and economic post-independence challenge that have been put forward, since in the modern arrangement, because a lot of our politicians, a lot of our businessmen are briefcase businessmen who will do contract with government, make billions out of it, and then put their money in fixed deposit just for them to be living ostentatious and luxurious lifestyle, and will not reinvest in a productive sector that will help to generate more wealth. They have failed in a lot of this aspect because they have not looked at history. If they look at America with Rockefeller, if they look at India with Adani, they'll look at how private entities have worked hand in hand in government to industrialize it country to a point where it will be able to create jobs, generate opportunities for the vulnerable and less privileged. If they continue with the call, this is a very important call, because if they continue with the way they are acting, then after the post, if we no longer have oil, then Nigeria is not industrialized to a point where it will go into production for self-sustaining, then they will not be able to enjoy their wealth, because they would have created an endemic poverty environment that would have continued to act as antithetical to the survival of those who have running briefcase economy. So it is a clear call, and I think those who have resources, those who have money, and government should also work out a very conducive plan and a discussion, not to now become a witch hunting expedition for those in power to say, oh, this one is not supporting us, he has money, this one. So that's why one of the fear is inconsistency in government policy. And because of this inconsistency, and because the over politicization of every issues in Nigeria as regards whose interest should come first, whether the interest of the nation or in the interest of those in power. This is the big problem. We need to have a government in place that will be able to draw a line between personal interest and collective interest, in order to be able to promote national development through a very well cut out transparent policy that will bring more billionaires, more resourceful investors on the table, to be able to create a productive sector that will be able to absorb the level of the increasing population that we have on a yearly basis, where you talk about 8-something million beds per year. So it is critical that we must take this call as a very serious step in an attempt to build a very stable nation.
Yes, is of course, like you said, it is a call to duty, especially from the voice of a man who the country cannot disregard his comment in this direction. He has shown an example, and so government policy should be one that is followed through and through, so that it can encourage other persons to come in. But he took the risk. If some of his earlier interview, he did say that many of his colleagues did tell him that this is a very dangerous step you are taking in this country where policies flip-flop. If you go ahead, you are just trying to waste this huge money or revenue resources in the country. But today we know how difficult it has been for him, the fight with the NNPC over the property in terms of a crude supply and the rest of it, which they are still working and sorting, given the presidential intervention. But I want to ask you, do the wealthy actually know that? Do they need this kind of counsel when you know your locality, you have this challenge? Before now, we used to have the successful textile industry in northern Nigeria, which as at the 60s, had the employment of over 22,000 persons that were in there. And then you have a rubber, what do you call it, a tire factory in this country, many of Michelin, many of which have left. Now, with this call that he has made, that the call for niche for what do you call it, foreign investment should not be the focus of the government, that instead it should make sure the policies are right. Do you think that can also inspire people to make investment in the power sector, which is critical to make sure that these other industries function? Is there a nexus?
Yes, there's a nexus. Dangote Foundation is not the same with a lot of investors, a lot of domestic investors. You have alluded in some of your opening about the inconsistency in government policy, which is largely responsible for the reason why a lot of Nigerian rich people are afraid, to bring their money to the table. So we need to be able to have a consistent government plan that will not, at the end of the day, deviate. And the lack of also the issue that we do not have a midterm, short-term, and long national developmental plan that would have been able to act as a reason why people will be encouraged to invest their money in certain sector. Because if you invest and the level of which our government plays, in the sense that every policy starts and ends with a particular regime, a particular administration, then people become endangered. Look at foreign investors who are Nigerians. Let's say they are Nigerians who came to Lagos to invest, and the coastal highway affected it. There wasn't a proper way to sit down, and even if you are not giving them money, there would have been a proper way to sit down and have a proper dialogue. And this level of military attitude that's still bedeviling our democratic governance, where people who hold power become extremely arrogant in the dispense of such authority. That also affects development. It's also because a public perception index in certain sector can also act as an obstacle to people to be encouraged to invest. The regulation of the power sector brought in a lot of investors, local investors who brought in their money, and certain impediments that have acted against their growth have also frustrated these investors. Some of them have been taken over by the banks, and government did not have any intervention arrangement to be able to make sure that both the customers and investors who came into this largely new territory were protected. So these are some of the challenges, and for government to be able to be successful on this part, for government to be able to follow the advice given by Dangote, because not all local investors, we have the advantage, the reach, and the opportunities upon which the foundation upon which Dangote started, from his family name and the other opportunities. Yes, he has done well for himself. He has done well in contributing to the growth of Nigeria, but everybody starts at a different level, and this level also is the reason why most people are skeptical and bringing their money. Instead of bringing it up, they now run the briefcase economic how they call it, wealth generating process, where they leave their money in fixed deposit and continue to have a daily, monthly interest from it and survive based on that. So we need to be able to have like what other countries have done in the world, where they give some kind of holiday for whatever money you are bringing. Nobody's going to query you for the amount of tax you have had before. Nobody's going to ask you for the source of the money, so that you can bring the money into the economy. Because if people keep their dollars, if people keep dollars in their buried in their houses and every other place, of what benefit is to the economy? One is not we're happy with the level of corruption that have continued to eat up into our resources. But those that we cannot trace, those we don't know where to are, we shouldn't start fish hunting when the resources are brought out. We should just give that kind of holiday at a certain period of time. I think there was an attempt for the Buhari government to do that, but there's no proper framework for it. So if you have such framework and people bring out their money, oh, come and invest in this place, or with your whole, there's those tax challenge won't come, source of money will not be asked, just for that period of time. I'm telling you that going forward, there will not be any kind of lenient treatment for those who indulge themselves in the corrupt practices. So this will open up the economy. This will bring money into the economy. This will boost the health of the economy, and people will be able to be gainfully employed from the industries and investment that is put in place. What government needs to do in every business environment, in every country, what government needs to do is to be able to put how they call it, enabling business environment. Yes, where people can come, invest their money. When there's access to raw material, there's access road to raw material, there's access to road to where market and other things are available, so that this industrialization process that we are trying to drive will be able to drive effectively to the benefit of both investors, the government, and the people of this country. So the enabling environment is very critical when government must work, and this they've already worked on the tax issue. We should have a very effective consolidated tax process where people don't get scared from whether the local government struggle of taxing and all the other things. So I think the process is ongoing, but I do not see enough commitment from those in power to make sure that this helps to build the health of the economy, because I still see a lot of concentration in how our only mono-product economy is being run. There's no investment to expand or policies to be able to expand into agro-allied business environment where people can also expand into that area. What they are doing is to continue to, corruption in the NNPC, corruption in the audit report that I have seen, where you talk about 30 billion naira, for entertainment, whether they were eating dragon wings or dragon egg, you can't tell. So these resources that are being siphoned, even from government pockets, for unnecessary expenditure that you cannot even, one can't even wrap his head around it. It's also a challenge. So we need to be able to also free corruption within the government system, so that people who are coming, you need to also streamline the bureaucratic bottlenecks, because the bureaucratic bottlenecks also act in killing business in this country. I have had a issue where I've run an institute, my own institute before, and where you need to go to Ministry of Health, you take you back to ACD education. So the challenge is very wide. We need to sit down to have policy direction that will make sure that these bureaucratic bottlenecks that is created, bureaucracy that act as a wheel, a clock in the wheel of investors, local investors, should be how they call it, monitored and restricted in a way that it does not act negatively to investors who are trying to put their money into the economy.
Yeah, well, that's a brilliant one there. But I still talking about what government should do. Would you say that so far this government has been able to improve on the enabling environment that will attract private individuals with robust financial muscles who will want to venture into some of these firms in any of the industry? Let's look at agriculture, for instance, the processing of agricultural products, like you have the issue of the fruits and vegetables, the fruits, yes, some of these vegetables that, of course, are perishable. Do you think with the level of government initiative to make the environment enabling, is this sufficient for them, or do you think it's an improvement to encourage more private investment, as the billionaire called?
Yeah, for the agricultural sector, if you look at what happened during additional time when he was Minister of Agriculture, there are a lot of things he did. The fund that was introduced to be able to distribute fertilizer directly to farmers was very effective, and it acknowledged by both local and international observers within the agricultural sector. So, and you also look at the way the Anchor Bora
scheme
scheme was handled under Buhari. It was a disaster. You know, when money was given, the Anchor Bora's estate entails that money will be given to whether I'm the end of the anchor, and then I'll share to those who are part of the, anchor groups. And these companies were not, this anchor was created with using fictitious name. Government money was stolen. Today, we can't give account for that. So what government should do, government should keep themselves away, from investing public resources and wasting it in the hands of their politician colleagues and friends who they patronize for sake of, for the purpose of getting re-elected or getting support. So what government should do is to either look for a way to liaise with state government who have overriding interest and overriding authority on land that are within their state territory, state confine. They should be able to liaise with them to see how they can provide this investment, this opportunity for those who are interested in investing in whether cassava farming, which you look at a lot of globally brings out ethanol and a lot of other byproducts that is generating a lot of huge resources. Cashew farming, for instance, for Kogi and other states that are involved in it, and cocoa from Ondo and others. You should look at area where you have substantial people participating, and what level of revenue will come from that, and create an enabling environment for that. I've seen a Lebanese a man I met somewhere in one of my friends' house who talked about the struggle to even get license to operate a production industry in Kogi State, and it took them like 7 years until Buhari intervened to call the governor. I've seen that kind of challenge in this country. So these are the problems where governors will ask what is in need for them, where ministers will ask what is in need for them, when those who are facilitating to carry people to meet with president will ask what is in need for them. This is the stumbling block that has been acting, that has remained a spinal in the wheel of our developmental and industrialization effort. So we need to probably have an effective monitoring mechanism that will check these excesses of government officials who are only there to try to swell their own pocket and interest. So these are critical obstacles that if we are not addressed, we will continue to face this issue of running a monoproduct economy and depending on our crude oil that we are not even refining, if not for the luck that we had with Dangote, who was interested in investing a lot of his money into that sector. Today we have a waterways where it is being controlled by private security, where the Nigerian Navy can no longer have access to. So we don't know the level of and we are only one of the only oil producing nation in the world, and one of the major oil producing nations in the world that does not have a metering system for how many barrels we are pumping a day, that the meter will be able to calculate electronically and technically, so that there's no human error in trying to reduce the number of crude oil we pump in a day. We are the only country, because of the intention of the people who are involved, who are not ready to open up the place for proper diversification and people participation. So you have these private investors. If you look at the NNPC budget, I will have to make reference to that, because public sector corruption, corruption affects and entrepreneurship, affect the government ability to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. And you look at where they say they use 17.5 trillion, as to create security for our pipeline security. This is unacceptable. This is part of the challenge that we are facing. And with 17.5 trillion, you know how many industries, how many opportunities this money we're giving as soft loan to industrialists that we know a lot of industrialists in this country. Would you not use their Kaftan television to campaign to advertise for them? But government knows them. If government has given this money to them, even including the money that government is saying that they are sharing for the low, poor and vulnerable, those money 5,000, I will not take anybody out of poverty. I think that there should be a way to identify those who can reinvest the money, those who are manufacturers of vehicles, those who are manufacturers of all sorts of all kind of things, and then that money will now have an effect, a spiral effect of employing people, bringing people into the employment system, where people will be gainfully employed and they will be productive in nature. With this handout will not be able to expand the economy as we are planning. We pray to. So it is clear that corruption should be reduced in government, and government must do everything possible to create accessible, opportunities for the local investors, even Nigerians who are abroad, who look at what they had remittance for the Nigerian diaspora remittance have done to our economy. So we must be able to look at how we can, streamline all these processes and encourage them. They are not foreign investors because they live in foreign land does not make them foreign investors. They're Nigerians, so they can bring their money home and put it in an investment sector that will further help the economy, because government cannot continue to be dependent in the way that the poor are dragged to a point where taxes are taking over their livelihood, and where their standard of living continue to go down. So the government's responsibility to make sure that the clarion call by the president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, becomes a reality for the benefit of our nation.
Okay, if we were to, with this conversation we're having now, we've talked about the importance and the fear of wealthy individuals and even corporate entities that may want to even venture to some investment, their fear and all that. We've talked about the need for government to make the environment more enabling so that people can see it and then they'll move in to invest. And by that investment, of course, the federal government will make more taxes, as it were, because these investments are going to be taxed. And from there, government will generate revenue from the company itself and from the staffers of the organizations and even from those who are patronizing the organization. But again, I want to ask, if you are to suggest if there maybe three areas that investment can be made for a huge employment opportunity for Nigerians, what of these three areas will you be looking at?
First of all, most importantly, is the agricultural sector, because Nigeria has about 34 million hectares of arable land that we are not using. This is the one the government call ungoverned areas, ungoverned spaces, which is absurd for me to even listen to. When you have this kind of huge potential, you should be able to put it to use. And this land, they are very fertile land. We have one of the young population. When you look at population demograph, you see that we have a very energetic young population. So we should be able to look at those who are reading agricultural economics,
science, extension,
and create a market for that, because it can generate the resources that can balloon our economy to a level that is unimaginable for a lot of people. Go and take Thailand with their coconut extraction system. They are making cream out of it. They are making how they call it, product and all sorts of things out of it. Coconut is on the street of everywhere you go in Thailand. People drink it. Tourists come for because of the coconut that they are manufacturing in Thailand alone. The same thing, Ghana. Ghana has also taken the coconut prototype and they are making it a huge economic impact out of it. So Nigeria has the biggest opportunity. We can even see give Ghana a part of the land they are using for farming, and we still have millions of hectares of arable land remaining. So it is lack of leadership. It is lack of focus, because the agriculture has one of the fastest gestation period for you to start to reap up your investment. If it's corn, you know how many months. If it's cassava has gone beyond starch. It has gone to ethanol. It has gone to a lot of byproducts. If it's all over the world, people are looking for people who will bring some level of all this fruit and all that. We should be able to build storage facilities across this country. The silos we have today for storage of food were built during the time of Jonathan, and there have not been any policy, deliberate policy of government since the APC came in to expand those silos, to expand the storage capacity of those silos, and then store. But you saw what happened at the Eagle Square when during the Buhari said that they were going to be giving out, that were producing rice, and we end up looking at it was it wasn't a rice pyramid. It was a rice pyramid. was later discovered that it was not the rice pyramid, that it was capitals were consulted to make a pyramid out of the place, and one bag was placed on each of those wooden racks. So it is a challenge that when government, people don't trust government, when there's deficit of trust and mistrust in governance, then you will find it very difficult for people to bring out their money. Government must show commitment, must show sincerity, and must show that they are interested in making sure that Nigeria work for the good of the next generation. Those who are talking today, I've told a lot of my friends, you cannot be saying you are in power and you are enjoying yourself. There are a lot of people who are in power during Jonathan, who are in power during Obasanjo, who are in power during Yaradua. How many of these ministers can Nigerians remember? Some of them who died, Nigerians don't even remember. So, and you look at what the entire Sholari stand for, what the Jakonde stood for, and these people are still remembered today. So you must be able to be in government, to be able to leave a lasting legacy that will affect both our political and economic system in a way that people will remember you for good. So government must go beyond, they're so dependent on a monoproduct economy and expand and go into agriculture. And then we already have refinery. If you look at what the byproduct of the refining capacity of the Dangote refinery, where they will get diesel, they get all sorts of other byproducts. So we already have that. We need to be able to now improve on that so that our importation, we should reduce our import, how they call it, our import into this country, and increase on how we can export, final product instead of raw material out of this country. Like, taking our gold and refining it and making out a jewelry out of it and then exporting it. Because we have enough gold deposit in Zamfara and other places of this country that we are not using for at all, and it is being manned by illegal by manners that are illegal, that are even involved in sponsoring some of the banditry and some of the challenge of security that we have today. So government must be proactive, government must be determined, government must wake up to the full responsibility of making sure, apart from because economic prosperity will reduce the level of insecurity that we have. The reason is that more people are going into poverty than they are getting into wealth. So how do you expect people, a man who is not sure of the next meal, to be able to be stable in sense of reasoning and in sense of sincerity to the state? So government has failed over the years, and this is the most consequential call by any African businessman in the last 90 to 100 years to call on the other fellow Nigerians, other fellow people who are within our country, whose children will live after they have gone, to bring out their resources and do proper investment that will impact on lives. Because it is important. Look at America today. Dell woke up and said they are giving certain money to the government, to Trump, where they'll call it Trump check, about $1,000 to every baby that is given birth to in America. Like a future investment plan. So these are billionaires with their own resources that they are putting into the collective good for the people. Because this money was made from the country. It was made by opportunity granted to you by this country. So it is not just, yes, it is your money, but you should be able to think, in the direction of what can you offer back. People talk about business responsibility to its environment. There's also responsibility of businessmen to their own community and their environment. So it is not just you take and not put back. So we're not even asking you to share your money across on the street. What we're asking that there's so much opportunity in this country that it should be opened up so that you bring your money, invest it, so that we'll create jobs. There's nowhere in the world where government create jobs for vast majority of its populace. It is the only responsibility it has is to make sure that proper investment is put in place to create an enabling environment and then break out all these obstacles, artificial obstacles that act as impediment to business owners from investing. These obstacles are, which I call a bureaucracy, is a very dangerous obstacle that is created by people who man this up. And there should be oversight to civil servants who are responsible in passing these papers, and any delay in such papers, there should be punitive measures that will be handed over to them, so that people will learn that this country, the continued fall of this country is not in the collective interest of all of us. So it is clear that government has a higher responsibility to play in trying to encourage private investors, who are local private investors, for bringing their money from wherever they are hiding it, and then put it into economy so that we can generate more resources, so that we don't run shares and our bank are more prosperous out of just share the fact that they are getting every money you transfer, they take 5 naira, you transfer, they take 15 naira. You don't see that in most banks of the world. Banks don't live like that. Citizens engage in business with bank, a mutual business that they keep their money with you. And at the end of the day, if a man keeps 10,000 naira, if he doesn't touch it or he touches it, the money will reduce below 10,000. And that's not the right way for banks to operate. Banks all over the world are looking for entrepreneurs. They are looking for very sharp minds who can generate wealth and who can invest properly to be able to make sure that the wealth grows, and then give money to them, and also create the.
Oh, well, that is a minor technical issue. Well, it's just coming when we're about to take a break, which after the break, we shall return to look at what will a Rolls Royce cost, a new one, what they call the ghost Rolls Royce. I'll be looking at the cost, the prices, and how much this can be when it comes for an investment in any of our local, any sectors of our economy. And in agriculture, if a man is going to pull that kind of money into agriculture, what are the likely return for him? And what are the return also for the nation in terms of employment? Persons who will be gainfully employed, and the reduction of social tension, and also the level of taxes that will be coming to the government. But all this we shall be having a conversation around after the break. Welcome back after the break. This is our last lap of the conversation on legacy or luxury. Should Nigerian wealthy be required to invest in industries? With us on this via Zoom is the High Chief Peter Ameh, who is the National Secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties. He is the one talking with us on what responsibilities should come from the government, what responsibilities should come from the citizens, and then from the wealthy ones also among the citizens. But a quick one, some of the talk points of the interview by the richest African, Aliko Dangote, it was one. He said, importing, when people are involved in importing, what you are simply doing is importing poverty, because you are denying Nigerians the opportunity to work somewhere where they can be have a gainful employment, providing services and some level of stability to the economy. You are taking the money out to other places, America, Canada, China, Taiwan, anywhere, America and Europe, and you give them the money while the people would have been working here are those ones now there who are working and they are being gainfully employed. And so he said importation amounts only to importing poverty. He also made a very critical point, which we are going to be looking at now, where he said, instead of putting your money in luxury items like Rolls Royce and private jet, why not invest them in industries and what they call in the industries? And of course, the High Chief, who has been with us, did mention that agriculture is one critical aspect that can even turn the economy around. And so we'll look at this. Now, I did a search of an average cost of a new ghost Rolls Royce. It's between $350,000 and $400,000. And in Nigerian terms, it's about naira for almost a billion naira. That is the amount of money some persons are packing in their car lot as a car. Of course, when you have numerous billions, you can afford to do that. But again, the advice coming from Dangote was that why don't you look at the need in your community? What is the need in that community where you come from, or the ones close to you, or those contiguous to your community? How will any of your investment in that area improve their lifestyle? Today, one challenge across the country is power. And so solar power investment may be able to drive a lot of agricultural activities in that community. Well, these are not what I'm going to be saying. Then the second one is a Bombardier is between 70, a new one, of course, not the second one. Second one can be within the range of 28, 30, but a new one is between 78 to 90, $78 to $85 million. And so that is some kind of money that people are parking at the airport and then paying for the hangar of every day as these aircrafts are sitting there. And so the question is saying now, if three of these persons decide to come together and make a sale and then they invest their private jet in some point at some part of the country, some of the things that we need would have really been solved. But again, let us have a High Chief, the National Secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties, share with us some thought that he will be having on this segment. Sir, the question is this. With all of these people, there are those who criticize Dangote to say, well, if the government did not help you, they're giving the story of President Olusegun Obasanjo, who said he needed him when he was having challenge with the cement sector. He needed some support. He made a call to him, asked him to come, and he gave him a condition, telling him, well, you may have to encourage us locally, and to do that, you need other encouragement. He said, yes, I'm going to give it to you. And so he did that, and then he rose cement. That is one side of the story that we have had. Many believe that most of these wealthy men were men who were supported by one administration or the other. What is your thought on that?
Consistently, Dangote have enjoyed government patronage. There's no doubt. Even for the refinery, there's government investment there. He has enjoyed government patronage, but the genius aspect of it is the fact that he has capacity to do that. We're also talking to government to also create a balance, field when you distribute such resources, because there were other cement producers and all that, manufacturers or importers at the time when Olusegun Obasanjo decided to focus only on Dangote. So if there's no balanced distribution of such opportunity, then you tend to kill other people's business, because other cement importers, they lost their business to that. So it's clear that government must have a balanced policy for all citizens and try to create an inclusive process, inclusive drive that you will be able to, have more people participate in the process, not just a micro selection of individuals for such a business. Look, Dangote call is a very important call. Let me tell you that as we talk, youth unemployment is about 40% low. 40%. Nigerians, the projected population should be around 2050 should be around 400 million. Then you talk about Naira itself has lost its value, over 95% of the value in the last 10 years. So it is important that we look at this call as a call to action, as a call to patriotism. This is the first time that we're having a call, for more factories, a call to factories, and not a call to national anthem or a call to the nation. And one of the things he's saying in his call is that now that Nigeria still have oil, and there's still a little bit of seeming booming environment where people make money, it is now the right time for Nigerian elite who have some money to invest. Because when the oil is gone, and those waiver that they enjoy is also gone from importation, then they will also have the situation to bear along with the most vulnerable. So it is clear that this call should not be seen as from any partisan point of view. He has enjoyed government patronage. There's no that we have the data. We know this had happened, but we have asked government to create a balanced process whenever you are trying to give such opportunity to any business, to businessmen. You should be able to bring more people into that basket so that more people can benefit, so that we can create more wealth and more opportunities. So, but that is not issue. If you don't have capacity, government will come put their money into your hand. Those who use political process to privatize our electric power system couldn't manage it. Till today, we have a politics power problem because of those who were given the opportunity. Most people were not businessmen. I don't want to mention any of the companies, but some of the companies have lost their destiny to banks. So we need to have a clear process, a proper investigation, and before any of our national assets or such opportunity that we're trying to create that through the agricultural sector. See, we're number one look at our place. We're in the 80s, in the 70s to 80s, when it comes to the production of palm kernel, palm oil, and all that. And today we are nowhere to be found. That Malaysia is making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money from the same sector where we were able to give them seedling in those days. So government policies and government infrastructure will help to return Nigeria back to his projection of industrialization. Because if government don't involve in creating that environment and looking at those bottlenecks, either in our port authority, either with our custom administrators, our immigration sectors, and all the other sectors that combine work together, to be able to give even the manufacturer the opportunity to export their goods. Some Standard Organization of Nigeria, NAFDAC, and the rest of them. The activity must be streamlined so that there are not too many processes and too many obstacles for a man who have manufactured project to be able to now get his project to, to be acknowledged, to be supported, and to be, successful in moving them to other countries where, foreign exchange will be earned for our country. So the government has a large role to play. Yes, and this call from him is a patriotic call that goes beyond the fact that people will only want to learn national anthem and only want to give political donation to those in power so that they can sustain this cycle of elitist benefits and contract awarding process where they ignore how this money is eventually invested in something that can generate, that can reproduce other factories and create jobs and reduce the level of unemployment that we have today, and then make sure that our people are gainfully employed and that we also earn foreign exchange from that process. Those are just our concern, and it's called, for me, it's a welcome call.
Now, we know that support do come to one, investor or the other, and your call, obviously, one thing I want to line in what you said is that there should be equitable distribution of these support and opportunities so that others can also be able to drive. Yes, I also noted that, yes, the president there may have found capacity, as it were, in Dangote. And of course, today you cannot say he has disappointed in the course of that, even though more is expected of him, because Nigerians believe that if you are producing here, they should have a cheaper access to the fuel compared to what the international prices will be. But then I will want to ask you, is anything wrong with the private, is anything wrong with a wealthy man owning a Rolls Royce and a private jet in his house? Is there anything wrong with that?
No, there's really nothing wrong with it. To be sincere, even our president our current president, it was alleged that he has a 55 stream gov jet that he uses before he became president. These are private entity. If your money is earned, you can afford it, you should afford it. But what he's saying is that to prioritize the country itself, and that when we have wealthy minority. Yes, where we have a larger population of people who are poor. It doesn't reflect very well with those people who are driving those level of mechanical engineering discovery by other countries. So we should be able to go further, and bringing that resource to be a better positive impact on our people. From those investments, you can now start to buy those things. That's what happens overseas. What happens in all those developed nations, when they already have factories and when they have investment that have made so much money, they can now go into some of those living those ostentatious high lifestyle. But for now, Nigeria, the population of Nigerians in poverty is high. And if you look at the population projection, how do you live in such an environment by 2050, where the population projection will be about 400 million? How do you live? Currently, we have 40 million people. 40% of our people are unemployed, and they are young people. And how do you live in that kind of environment? The correlation between a serene environment, a stable environment, it has to do with the level of development and prosperity that the citizens enjoy. So if you withhold some of your resources just for the benefit of yourself and your family, and at the end of the day you create a situation for the country where poverty continues to increase, how do you enjoy your money within that such environment? So he's also worried about all these things, and it's unclear that he should worry any right-thinking Nigeria. Today we are using the Kaftan TV, we are using other facility that people invested their money in. They could also have used this money to buy other luxury items and buy luxury wristwatches and all that. But people should be able to think about the collective well-being of a country rather than just the private benefit of their own immediate family. So nothing is wrong with it. But if you invest and you prosper out of the profit of such, you can now do well. Today they go abroad. They are afraid to invest because the naira is getting weaker. How much you earn here, if change into foreign currency, become useless. So they should look at, if they invest and Nigeria become a productive country, where we are not logically dependent on consumption, then the value of our money will increase. And with the value of our money increasing, they will have better attention by, in whatever country they travel to. People will be respected, and their citizens will be given all the necessary attention that is deserved. So we are rubbing on ground. We are in the mud because of most of them are actually laughing stock when they go overseas. People look at them, how they live a very high level of life. They stay in 5-star hotel and all that. And people look at them and say, these guys are coming from somewhere that poverty is endemic. Why do they live so comfortable and they are so happy? So it is also a citizen's responsibility, to contribute to the development of his own country. And even when you have that business is still going to have the responsibility of the business to whatever environment which is operating. So it is a chain sort of, that goes round and round, before you can get it right, before it can become, beneficial to everybody that are involved. So that job creation process, that taking us from the consumption level, go to our ports today, the level of importation, government declared interest, a lot of money from tariff and all that we are being collected. It's not. I don't see this money as money that is really what what we should need, because China, which is at the the end side benefit of this whole global development when it comes to production, even during the time of the COVID, you saw that China prosper. While other countries, including United States, economy nosedived, to a destructive stage. So it is clear that production, self-sustaining in factories that can create wealth, that can create a job opportunity, that can expand the economy, that can create money for the government, and increase the tax, locally generated tax, is a better way to go, and it is the best opportunity that we can all be, praying for our country to have.
Well, thank you very much. Let's look at this thoughts. When he spoke, of course, a very short statement that was used, but the stories are very is reverberating, very, very deep. He made a comment that for those involved in import, it has been more of promoting jobs outside the country than in here. This is what has been sung again and again by several governments in the past. But now it is coming from an investor himself, one who was trusted in a Nigerian difficult business terrain and has made investment. Will you, what sense do you make of that comment when he says, when you import, you are importing poverty and denying the opportunity that would have availed from building up mini factories and the rest? Recall that during the Obasanjo time, over 18 refineries were given licenses to go and operate modular refineries and the rest of it. Up to date, there's hardly any that I can recall came up before he came up with the very huge investment, which of course has even consumed the capacity of the entire modular refinery had they gone into operation. So now you look at looking at these. What counsel will you give to wealthy men? Don't blame them again, but again, what counsel will be to people who invest in what will make them have quick returns? Because the query now is, we do not seem to have the thinking or belief that leaving an enduring legacy matters, so that 20 years, 40, 50, 100 years, people still talk about you. I know in the Southeast today, it is not out of place. Somebody tells you about the Juku investment. That's talking about the senior Juku, not the young one. the husband of Bianca, but the senior Ojukwu, his role in the economy of that region and how he was involved in the transport sector. The name is still mentioned, the legacy is there. So what would be your encouragement to wealthy men who today have not made a very enduring mark that will outlive them? A good example today is even the Dangote refinery. That is definitely going to outlive him for many, many years.
I've seen other people now. I saw them recently. I saw something, a seaport in the southeast where they said it was owned by a private individual. I saw the seaport, a better seaport. So for me, for them, they should look at those who are doing such a monumental infrastructure and investing in such an industry, and then look at how the world has embraced them. Look at how Nigerians have embraced them, and then help us to be able to break monopoly in this whole sector. Because we have one or two more refinery, we decide that the modular refinery licenses and the Nigerian refineries could not function and have collapsed. Because if you have more or two refineries, you will see that there will be competition, and that competition will lead to price drop, and that will benefit the people. So it is we are encouraging them to be patriotic, to be committed to nation building, and to make sure that they also act as pressure group to force government, to push government to create those necessary environment so that both investors, both the end users and those who will benefit, the citizens themselves, will be happy at the end of the day, because it is a critical place that all hands must be on deck. It is not just one that analysts will come and talk, or those who will talk on national TV. It is one that the citizens themselves must stay away from their complacencies and their docility, to also call on government in whatever means or form to be able to encourage local investors to put their money in a way that we encourage their local production, and in the end of the day, create a job, expand the economy, widen our tax net, and also help to bring revolution to our industrial sector. These are important things to note, and for them, they should look at the benefit that will come with it, which will be they will be remembered in the annal of history of those who have helped Nigeria from its crawling and undefeated status to a global giant in the industrial world of production, and contributing globally to what people consume in other countries. Just like look at when Taiwan started. Look at when we want to buy something in Lagos. Those days, you go to market, they say, it's Taiwan, no, it's fake. You want to buy this one, they say, it's China, it's fake. Today, where everything is almost from this axis, from Taiwan, from China, and from all these countries. So it is about trying and continuous effort in improving what you do. And government has had several policies that are in trying to encourage local investors over the years, and these policies are failed in a lot of ways. And it is government's interest now. It is the interest of government, so that they will take away the burden of always trying to explain why they fail, and create a benefit for themselves and for the larger country by making sure that policies are properly put in place, and not just policy being put in place. Proper implementation mechanism must be developed, so that those dynamics that is responsible for the failure of policy over the years, and for inconsistencies in our policy and implementation processes will be defeated, and we will now have a very stable environment where policy that will be implemented will be consistent with the level of investment that people will bring on board, and it will be act as it will be able to save and protect people's investment, not to go down the drain.
Thank you very much for joining us today on this interesting topic, Luxury or Legacy. Chief Ameh is the National Secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP, here with his headquarters here in the Federal Capital Territory. Of course, he was a former chairman of IPAC, where he did quite a lot of work in trying to get the parties form a good alliance, as it were, in giving the opposition to the ruling party. So he's still within that frame as it is today. We thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us. We say thank you, and We will look forward to you honoring our invitation next time when we make a call to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Okay, so before in rounding up, I will need to emphasize this. The burden of making Nigeria better, the burden of making Nigeria a good nation which you desire is on you and I. And that responsibility is one that will ensure that if we make the light in our own individual corner to shine, it will, of course, reach out to the other and will shine everywhere. While we are calling on the rich to make huge investment, as it were, and they make investment and you get employed in such entity or organization, you should be responsible to yourself and ensure that your own duty that you should do within that space, you do it so that you now allow for a seamless, successful operation. It is when people fail to do their responsibilities in this place of their employ that even dampens the inspiration, dampens the decision of the man or woman who made such investment. What will you say if a farmer has made if an entrepreneur has made a huge investment in farms, and those who come to farm are just busy stealing the crops? And then the time of harvest comes, they steal up the whole crop and he has nothing to take to the market. He will not come back to that farm next time. So it is all on us. We must all play our role. When we do so, we'll just have a beautiful nation going. All right, from here on Kaftan TV, the POLITY, I say goodbye. My name is OSARETIN Osadebamwen.